I'm here in Tallinn, Estonia. I'm at Innove, and this is basically educational research and support for the Ministry of Education. Again, this is outside of Tallinn. Where are we at here today, and what is your name and what is your title?
We're here at Foundation Innove, which is an institution under the Ministry of Education in Estonia, and my name is Gunda Tire, and I am the National Project Manager for PISA in Estonia.
So, as we were talking about it a minute ago regarding, you said that Estonia first started PISA in 2006, and it was a, what, positive experience?
It was a positive experience because we didn't really quite think that we would be at such a good position. But already in 2006, the results were approximately the same as they are today in science. In reading and in math, they have slightly improved over the time, but slightly, yes. But like in 2015, you moved up on the rank. That's because some of the countries like Finland moved down on the rank. Exactly. If you look at the scores, at the mean scores, then we have basically the same. We have the same. I didn't show that. Basically, this would be the league table in Europe according to the colors.
Okay.
Because very often you get criticized by making the league tables with numbers. So here, the greener you are, the highest the results you have. Orange is the average score, and red are the mean or the below average. So Estonia and Finland are the two countries which are well above the mean of the mean score of the OECD.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess I don't have that slide here, but here you can see how the Estonian proficiency levels, which is one thing of measurement in PISA, you know, here are the students with the lower proficiency levels and here are the highest. And this is 2006 and that's 2015. So, and you usually don't want to have many of those and you want to have more of those, right?
Correct.
So for the, we have a slight increase of the with the students of lower proficiency. But this is still like among the lowest in the world. So basically what Estonia has managed to have very small share of these students. For example, for the European Union, we have the proficiency benchmark is 15%, and they want to have at least most countries there, and very few are reaching that, but this is working for Estonia. And so these numbers on the other end, they have increased, so that's also good.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in overall, the result is quite the same as it was in 10 years ago.
And how about Germany? They've done a little bit better, right? Or you're not.
Germany has done better. You mean
in PISA from 2012 to 2015?
Yeah, they did all kinds of reforms and they have improved, that's for sure. But they are not on this level.
Do you know what type of reforms they did there to help boost those scores?
I think they introduced some of the external evaluation, which they didn't have for the school system. They reconsidered some of this. Well, there is quite some early, what do you call it, tracking of students in Germany.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And PISA shows that the tracking is not really good. So Estonia doesn't track students until they are 16.
Right.
So basically when they finish the first 9 years of study, that's the first time when the tracking takes place. So some of them go to upper secondary, and then some go to vocational schools. So basically the fact that you make students sit in the school, study all kinds of things, is proving to be good, and that's also a proof which happened in Poland. Poland made a school reform. I'm sure you've heard about it.
Yeah, I went there.
That they added a year to their studies, and that immediately improved the results as well. So making students be at school for longer is already a positive influence. So yeah, so one of the secrets for Estonia, one of the points how we stand out and how we manage to get such good results is that we have managed to take care of the students from with low levels of proficiency. And another thing is that we don't really distinguish with among the social and economic background. The students from low socioeconomic background, they go to schools and they get good results. For example, we have like 49% of students from low socioeconomic background or from students from poor families. They go to school and the school knows how to compensate and to teach them to the levels that they get good results.
So let me ask you this. But are those kids that are in low socioeconomic backgrounds, are a lot of them immigrants or Estonian?
We don't have that many immigrants.
Right.
We have this more specific situation that we have the schools. Well, immigrant is a very dangerous word to use here because we have a big neighbor. So you cannot use immigrants because many of the society would attribute those are Russians.
Right.
But they are not Russians in visa terms because you have to be. You're either you were born somewhere else or your parents were born and you're a second generation immigrant. But for most of the Russian kids, parents were born here, so they are not. The immigrants which we get now is some was an immigration crisis which is in the Europe happening, but we don't get them that many because of the reason you know. It's cold.
It's cold.
It's cold,
Right.
and it's very difficult for them to. We don't pay them that much money for the support. So if they come here, we accept them. We make them, there are all kinds of things. So our school system is sort of getting ready to. We don't have very many of them, but very often they just go to Germany or to somewhere, and they just disappear from the country.
Do you think that culture, though, affects education?
Absolutely.
So the cultural background, the values that are set within that culture,
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, it's. If we look historically, the Baltic countries have been always on the crossroads of, there was somebody coming from Russia, from Sweden, from Germany,
Somebody's always invading.
Somebody's always invading. And
Right.
these small countries which are living here, small nations like Estonians, Latvians, and Lithuanians, so for them to survive somehow, you had to be smart.
Right.
And also many of these, for example, when Germans came here, they brought also their schooling system. The Swedes came here. They even made a university in Tartu.
The Dutch were here too,
The
right?
Dutch.
I think.
No, the Dutch haven't
I was
really been
thinking
that
that.
much, but Danes were here. But for example, Swedes made a school which is like one of the best schools in the old town, Gustav Adolf Gymnasium. At the same time, they opened the university in Tartu, which was sort of the area for Baltic young people to study. So they brought many of the things as well, and then for the local peoples to survive, you had to learn to read at early ages, and so it's been like from the olden times that. Education is a value.
What do you think is more difficult to change, the education system or culture?
I think they sort of go hand in hand. I don't even know how to answer that question. I mean, culture is the way. I mean, the education and culture. This is so like the values in the family that comes from, and so if we value sort of certain things, like maybe you have heard that Estonians have these song and dance festivals which are like huge every 5 years, when there are like thousands and thousands of people, from school kids and from grown-ups, they come together, and this is part of the culture. And so you would only participate in that culture if the value or the values of the family and the schools would say that this is cool, and so you would teach what to do in those festivals at schools. So it all sort of goes hand in hand.
I only bring this up because I teach at a school that's 97% Latinos, mostly Mexicans.
Yeah.
And I don't see the value of education in the families, the appreciation, the culture. And
I can see your point. I've been to Mexico myself, and I remember we went up to the mountains to an Indian family, who would just reproduce and have more and more kids, and so their value was to have more children. That was their richness. But what they do with those children, that wasn't kind of like important. Well, there are of course all kinds of families, dysfunction and all of that. But in general, as a rule, if the family doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and the kid goes to school, when somebody says that you're something, you're somebody, and you can achieve this, or you have goals, and you are treated sort of like a person, like equal, then with everybody else, then I don't know if there is a possibility. We sort of want to think that in Estonia there is a possibility to get out of this, poor stay poor and rich stay rich. So we don't have this segregation that much in the society, and we sort of treat everybody equal. So.
Interesting. As far as the standards, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but to be a teacher.
Yeah.
In Finland, it's quite high, like top 20, some degree, top 10% of the university cohort. I haven't really asked this question here, and frankly, I don't know that much about it, but I mean, you're getting great results. So is it because of great teachers, or is it more of a cultural thing? I'm trying to figure out.
Well, there is nothing happens without teachers,
right?
But we don't have this sort of high standards as in Finland. So
to be a teacher here.
To be a teacher, we don't have such huge competitions. If you want to be a teacher, you will most likely get into the teacher training and be a teacher. Whereas in Finland, they have huge selection for that. We do have, I think, well, the teacher population is actually aging for us.
So I've heard.
And so it is not a very popular sort of aspiration for the young people.
They told me that, yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, like in this house where we deal with teacher trainings and with all kinds of things, we are also working on how to make the teachers' job more attractive. And the government, the ministers that we have now, they are working quite a lot to increase the teachers' salaries, because at some point it started that the teachers' salaries are just lower than many others.
Do you think if they did increase the salary, more young people would come in?
Well, they're working with that. And there are all kinds of different also aspects, like, for example, trying to get people going back to school to share their experiences or something, so to sort of pull people more into the teaching jobs. I think it's also quite on school-based cases as well, because I know that the school, for example, where my one daughter goes, they have all the time that the teachers they have a problem that the teachers all the time go on maternity leave, so that means they don't have that sort of problem, but so the population is kind of younger.
Are there predominantly teachers female?
Yeah. That is like 80% or so are female teachers.
So then that goes to do you have any idea though the reason I bring this up is about 50% of U.S. teachers come from about the bottom 25% of the university cohort. In fact, Mark Tucker talks a lot about this in terms of teacher quality. Mark Tucker says if they were selected from the upper end, things would completely different in the U.S. He said just that one thing alone, in his opinion, would change a lot. So then that goes to the fact that, do you have any idea where are they in the university can they be on the bottom to be a teacher? I'm trying to figure out in the selection process. For example, in South Korea, it's like 5% to be an elementary teacher, the best of the best.
I don't even think we have such statistics.
Yeah.
I have never heard of that.
Yeah.
It's if you get in the university and you study well, you become a teacher. But if you I mean, for each of the faculty or the subjects that you study, there is a separate lists. I don't know if they would list all of them and say this is a bottom that those
Sure,
are the teachers.
sure.
So it's just a different type of statistics that.
But to be a doctor or a lawyer, you'd have to be.
You have to have good grades. Yes.
Good grades.
You have to have good grades when you finish the secondary school, and you have to get in there, and you have to survive the training, so, which doesn't happen to everybody, which is quite tough. And the same thing is with the teachers. They go there to places where you can become teacher in Tallinn or in Tartu, and so if you get through all of the training and you get to the end, then you probably are pretty good.
So in America, then I just shared with you about 50% of teachers come from the bottom 25% of the cohort. Do you think that would, if that were the same case here, that would change things?
Well, the cohort is one thing, but the other thing is how you do your job. What is your attitude and how you get into school and what sort of school culture the school has and what demands you have there. So I think that also influences. It's not like a stamp on your face, you had poor grades in the university and so that immediately continues to you doing a poor job in something. There is this, you come out of, I mean, when you come out of teacher training, you're like a beginner driver. You sort of know the skills, you got the exam, but in order to become a good driver, you need quite a few years, they say at least 6-7 years, to drive automatically.
Yeah, I believe that.
So it is the same thing with the teacher training. You come out, maybe you're a bit rugged at the beginning, but if you have mentors at school, if you have certain standards, curriculum, school culture, and all of that, and then maybe you shape up into something which is